Hey guys, welcome to the show. I've got my amazing friend Erin here with me.
Hey.
Hello. All right, so this is a bit of a bigger show than I've done before. So there's a whole lot to do today. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm able to run it all properly. Because this is the kind of thing I want to do every now and then, a little bit more of a heavier content. We're going to be talking about ancestor worship today. So I know Erin and I touched on it a little while ago, and then we've also spoken about it, and that it's something that has to be treated with a lot of respect because even though we might not follow those belief systems, they do mean a lot to other cultures. So I'm going to do a disclaimer ahead of time. I'm so sorry if I butcher some of the names of the practices. I've done my best to Google how to say things correctly, but I'm probably going to get stuff wrong. So please do not kill me. I am sorry. um,
Let us know.
yeah,
Let us
we're
know
doing
if we
it
mess
with
it up.
love. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing it with love, and we're coming from a place of wanting to learn a little bit more. In a perfect world, I would have a studio and an audience, and we could have guests lined up and really actually ask them questions one on one about these things. But that is just not how things are right now. So, yeah. So we are going to be looking at our first thing today. So I'll pop up a picture about that right now.
Ooh.
So we're going to be learning about this practice here. So I'm just going to add this to the stream, pop us to the side. And we are going to be learning firstly about the Sraddha from India. So as you saw in the picture, it's quite a colorful experience. So in the Hindu religion, the Sraddha is a ceremony and it's a religious and social responsibility. The male members of the Hindu faith, with the exception of some holy men known as sannyasis, are required to take part in the ritual. So this is, oh, my phone is just pinging. How fantastically
Be very
professional.
popular.
It's a rite that's performed for deceased parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and is thought to protect and nourish the spirits as they travel through the afterlife. So how do you feel about that? Like, that makes me feel quite nice. Like the
Yeah.
fact that, they're thinking of their loved ones as they go through the afterlife to eventual reincarnation.
It's really nice. It's really nice. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, like some cultures are more patriarchal than others. Um, but yeah, I think it's really lovely to just be thinking about them and like supporting them on their way.
I think that's
Really
all
cool.
any of us ever really kind of want. I think if you've got
Mm.
like loved ones and family members, it's kind of nice to think that you'll be remembered and that there'll be sort of rites that are performed in your honor. And I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like I kind of think that's quite romantic and sweet. And I kind of do those things for people that I love who've passed. I think of them and do little ceremonies and things like that. Like, I think it's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Especially, as you and I are both immigrants, when somebody passes away in your home country and you can't get there or something like that, just to do something even little, like light a candle for them,
Yeah.
or that's very, I'm not Catholic, but that's very Catholic to light a candle in remembrance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something
Absolutely.
like that. It is important. I think even if it's just for our own sense of well-being, even if it's not doing anything necessarily for the people who've passed on. I think it is, but no matter how you look at it, I think it's lovely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So they do a whole lot of rites. The male family member known as the Carter will make offerings to local priests and the souls of the deceased directly. The offerings generally
Mm.
consist of nourishing rice balls called pina pradana. The Carter often performs services for the priests or brahmanas as well, including feet washing and other acts of devotion. Like I think that's really sweet. Just caring for the people who take care of the souls of the living, the ones that do all of the ceremonies. It's a chance for them to also be cared for as well, which is really sweet.
Yeah, yeah, and there's
Yeah.
definitely something to be said for service.
Yeah, for sure. And so the Sraddha takes place on the 11th day of the 31st day after a person's, and the 31st day
And
after a person's death, as well as at regular intervals after that. And then there's also an annual holiday as well, where they do the ritual. So, yeah, that's really nice. So, kind of, as a person who is maybe getting on in life or maybe knows they're going to pass, that's actually a really comforting thought that you're not gone forever. That's really cool. I like that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is really nice. It's interesting that we had this coming up this week because I had an experience um actually last week after our hypnotherapy um session where
Yeah.
I had it wasn't a dream necessarily, but it was an experience with my husband's grandmother who passed away a few years
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. Are we at the time where we're talking about experiences yet?
Yeah, no,
I can
it's
wait.
awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
she was always, I mean, she lived through the Depression and like World War II. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she was like 99 when she passed
Wow.
away in 2015. And I actually was telling my mother-in-law today, but I feel that she's quite inconvenienced by death.
Mm,
She finds it annoying to be dead. She wishes
yeah.
she could just be with us. And
Yeah.
she's like, why do I have to be gone? This doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
it's very
awesome.
much just her.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm so glad you had that experience. That's really awesome.
Yeah, like she's annoyed and she's mad that she's dead, but she's not like mad at anybody else. She's just being
Yeah.
like, this is ridiculous.
No. That's so cute. Do you know what I love? I love how those who have gone on, they still have their character, like their
Oh,
personality is still
yeah.
there. It's awesome. It's just awesome. All right. So our next one we're going to chat about. Dun, 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 dun. Let's hopefully have that come on top. Why are you not showing up, Mr. Overlay? Oh, there you go.
Oh, here we go. From Ghana. Ooh, cool.
All right. So we are looking at the Vodun from Ghana. So this is a religious group found in West African
Whoa.
nations like Ghana. It's also known as voodoo elsewhere in the world.
Just gave me shivers when you said that.
Yeah, and there's much more to voodoo than the stereotypes that are portrayed by Hollywood horror movies. So the Vorden centers around an elaborate series of gods and complex characters, similar to the gods of ancient Greece. Although human sacrifice to the gods ended over a century ago, animal sacrifice still takes place. Another key
Whoa.
component of the Vodun faith is ancestral worship. Vodun worshippers believe the souls of the dead walk among the living at certain times. One of those times is during a dance performed by hooded figures called Igunguns, I hope I get that right, or living ghosts. The ceremony of dancing Igunguns is performed annually in West Africa as an ancestral rite, allowing the dead to walk amongst the living for a little while. It's believed that the hooded figures represent the dead so accurately that touching them can even bring death to the living. So, how does that make you feel?
Shivery. That's
Yeah,
powerful stuff. I mean, blood magic is powerful.
yeah, yeah. And
That's
like they're
really
saying,
cool.
Hollywood's kind of amped up whole the voodoo fear of voodoo, and
Yeah.
in a way that can be quite it's a little bit rude in a way, not,
Oh,
give
yeah.
people their own opportunity to speak out about what their beliefs are and everything. Don't just portray something in a certain way just to get views and stuff like that. So what is your personal experience with like voodoo? Have you had any experience, or is it all just from watching movies and stuff like that?
I haven't had any experience. I do know some people who have gone to New Orleans where, a lot of Haitians, because I think there's different types of voodoo, to be honest. I think I hadn't heard of the voodoo from Ghana. I thought it was just from Haiti.
Mm.
Um, but I guess it makes sense because, yeah, New Orleans is quite the melting pot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I do know that like from people I know who have gone to New Orleans, they say that it has a vibe. Like it has a real
Mm.
like
Mm.
you feel like you're not ever really alone. Like you're
Yeah.
always being
Yeah.
watched.
I went to a dinner party last night, and there was a gentleman there who's had quite a heap of really hectic paranormal experiences. And we ended up talking about this very thing without realizing
Mm.
that it linked into today. And I was just saying that everywhere in the world where there is an African culture genetically, where the original genetics, recent genetics are African in nature, the power behind what they believe and the actions of their belief, it's potent, really powerful stuff. And it's all like witchcraft, voodoo, but really there's actual real physical outworkings as a result of these things, like the fears that the people feel for the sort of bad guys in those the religious beliefs, are well founded, because some of the stuff that goes on can be quite scary, and yeah, quite hectic actually. So yes,
Yeah.
all peace and respect to anyone who practices voodoo or practices Vodun. I hope I got that right, guys. As long as you're doing it respectfully and not being, dodgy in the way you're dealing with people, that's great. And yeah, be blessed, be blessed, be blessed. That is my chair squeaking. It sounded so dodgy. But anyway, I'm like,
A likely story,
yeah,
Sandy.
very likely. All right, so we're going to go on to number 3.
Ooh. Dia de los Muertos. Oh, I hope that was not a horrible way of saying it.
Exactly. All right, so here we go.
Wow.
Dia de los Muertos from Mexico. One of the most famous ancestral worship rituals in the world is the Dia de los Muertos ceremony that takes place in Mexico for the Day of the Dead festival. Celebrants use altars and unique Dia de los Muertos
Muertos.
symbology, good gosh, to connect with departed ancestors and family members. According to ancient Mexican and Spanish Catholic tradition, offering items to deceased ancestors will help the departed souls through the afterlife. For example, leaving water on the altar can help quench the spirit's thirst. An offering of bread helps keep the spirit satiated on its journey. So, yeah, I know people have a lot of fun dressing up and doing stuff, especially at Halloween. I'm always kind of cognizant just of cultural appropriation and stuff like that. So, what are your views with regards to that? Like the whole sugar skull
Cultural
thing.
appropriation.
Do you think it is, or do you think it's all fair because we're celebrating the dead?
I
It's
think
a
it
hard one.
depends. It's a hard one. Yeah, especially, I
Mm.
mean, look at me. I'm as white as it comes. I don't really feel like I have the right to have any opinion on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's very sensitive for some people. And,
Yeah.
like I think it is easy to kind of forget that around Halloween. I think it's a good reminder because yeah, I bought like a skeleton onesie for my daughter, and it was very Dia de los Muertos style. It had like flowers around the skeleton, and she's got a little
Yeah.
mask and everything. And I think it's easy to kind of see it as a less spooky, like skeletonized version, if that makes sense. But like, yeah, it's good to remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, it is. It's always good to be cognizant where you're getting your inspiration from, and whatever you do, do it sensitively, and just remember that some people, it's a way of life. It's an ancestral practice. So just be
Hmm.
careful when it comes to dressing up. Just do it sensitively. All right. So we're on to our next one.
You're just going through these, like, that's great. You've done a lot of work.
Thank you. All right. Venerated saints from Rome. All right, venerated saints from Rome. In the religion of Catholicism, ancestral worship centers around important religious figures called saints. Saints are people throughout history whom the church has identified as holy or virtuous. The veneration of saints is a type of ancestral worship prevalent in Catholicism and other types of Christianity. It began out of a belief that saints or martyrs would be received into heaven more directly and that their paths should be followed. Some followers of the Christian and Catholic faiths follow specific saints and worship them through prayer and devotion. So I've had a lot of experience in the Anglican Church. I know the Anglican Church has got a lot in common with the Catholic Church. I've also been a music and drama teacher at a Catholic school, very involved with masses and stuff. And I had the pleasure of traveling Rome. I was over in Europe. I got to go inside a number of beautiful cathedrals and sing in them. And I was quite blown away in Rome. I cannot remember the name, but it was the main cathedral in Rome. And I went and I had to go and buy a shawl to put over my head. And I had to pull my skirt as low as I could so that it covered my knees and cover up my shoulders. It was really quite strict.
Hmm.
And just having a chance to see the human bones like laid into surfaces and the bodies
Oh,
on
like
display.
the
And
catacombs?
yeah,
Was n
like bodies on display that people were praying to and lighting candles for and asking for answers. And it was so profound. And I was going to go into some, there were some catacombs underneath, and I was going to go down, but I couldn't. We didn't have time. But I was quite blown away by people praying to the dead bodies of the saints and stuff. Like for me, being part of a modern Anglican church and then a modern Catholic church at that time, they were all like, no, you don't do that. You pray to God or whatever. So that was challenging at times.
Yeah,
Have you ever had an
that's
experience in a cathedral like that?
I've been nothing that like I'm really surprised by that, to be honest. I didn't realize that they like I knew the catacombs were still there as like a historical respect
Yeah, I think
to
that's in Paris, isn't it, guys? If you can help us, I think it's in
I know
Paris. It's a beautiful.
there are catacombs in Paris, but I thought that there were catacombs in Rome as well.
It might be because I
Uh,
know they said there were skeletal remains on view under the church in the underneath, but just and the way that these bodies were preserved, often with just a thin coating of like flesh colored wax, so you could still see their nail beds and their hairs, and some of them you could see the bones sticking through where it had sort of fallen away, and they were all dressed in the robes that they wore during their time of service, and some of them have been there hundreds of years. It's quite profound
oh,
to
that's
experience that.
That's crazy. I mean, not crazy, like, but it's just like I didn't realize that was happening in the Catholic Church still, like I knew,
Yeah.
that the Catholics prayed to, you know, the saints and believed in the saints and that they had,
But some of those saints still have bodies,
oh
and
my
they got rid of
God.
them. Yeah,
Did
it's
you have
profound.
any vibes around them?
I'm I've got this thing, right. When I go into older churches, I can feel the prayer, the heaviness of the
Mm,
prayer in the space, and the belief, and the trust, and the. It's almost like I love being in a holy space that's sort of
hmm.
anointed, and because I think people come in there with very pure intention. They come in there really
Most people.
needing help. Yeah, really needing help. And
Yeah.
they're often putting their last little coins in the bowl, and they're lighting candles, and they're begging. You can see them really fervently praying. And I kind of feel that energy. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, I've been involved with the church for a long time before I kind of stepped away. And I know take out the human element, and there is a spiritual element that's very beautiful and pure. Unfortunately, people do get in the way and kind of muck it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thinking that gets in the way of it, like you're
The
right.
hidden
I
element.
was, yeah, just go with it. Why do we need to put words and things to it or judge
Exactly.
people?
Exactly. All right. So now I'm not sure if our audio dies whenever I put one of these images up, because it did that to me the other day. So
Oh,
I'm just putting the image up and then going on to the next slide. So we'll see. I don't know if people can hear us once it's
I'll
up.
just
So
be
here.
very animated.
All right. So we're going on to number 5. All right. There we go.
Hmm.
All good. Okay, so we are looking at the Shi ceremony from China. In a Chinese folk religion, a Shi is a ceremonial stand-in for a deceased ancestor. The word Shi literally translates to corpse. Oh my gosh. At a funeral or ancestral worship event, a personator can dress up as the ancestor, often in a symbolic way, and act on their behalf. For example, the she personator can eat and drink, consuming ritual offerings that relatives want to give to the departed. Large she gatherings often take place as a type of family reunion where many ancestors can gather together in the forms of their personators. At the ceremony, they eat and drink, as well as enjoy blessings from living family members. So there seems to be a recurring theme. There seems to be always food involved. Often
Yeah.
fire seems to be involved, and the creation of
Water.
either a symbolic item to remind the people of the person, or a person impersonating or standing in for that person.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, even it's so interesting that there's these through lines between all these different things, like you were just saying, and even all the way back to like when they're finding mummies from ancient Egypt. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like food, water, like things that they would want in the afterlife.
Yeah. So they're caring for the physical even while their person is gone, the body is gone, they're still caring for that person, the spirit and soul of that person, which is a beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
such a
beautiful.
good intention.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to number 6.
Whoa.
So that is megalithic tombs from Europe. It might not take place much anymore, but one of the most long-lasting types of ancestral worship are megalithic tombs in ancient Europe. Worship has created giant burial tombs for the dead as a way to venerate the ancestors. Ancient Europeans also tended to bury the newly departed alongside the long dead, and to entomb valuable objects alongside the corpses too. Many of the tombs found from ancient Europe were built to resemble houses, indicating that the people of that time imagined their ancestors living on after death. That's very interesting. I've always had a real passion for archaeology, and I've always loved mummies and tombs and the pyramids and learning more about sort of European megalithic tombs and stuff as well. I love the Mayan ruins. Any part of
Mm.
kind of hidden history really gets me excited.
Yeah.
Do you also enjoy that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah. Well, where I'm from, well, Pennsylvania more so, but definitely Ohio in some parts. But I remember going on road trips, and you'd see like on the side of the road there were actually attractions. You could see these burial mounds. They
Oh,
were
wow.
Native American burial mounds.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, it's the same concept. Is like yeah, there was one called, it's a serpent mound, and I may be butchering this because I haven't done the research, but like there's actually a serpent mound in Pennsylvania that's like,
Yeah.
if you look at it from above, it's quite big and quite long. And I know that those were quite sacred. It's fascinating to see like what people's idea of the afterlife is, and
Yeah.
what they think. It's always interesting to me to think, like, are they thinking of it literally, like these spirits will literally need this bread, or is it that the spirit of the bread
Yeah.
goes with the spirit?
Yeah.
I've always wondered what the concept is there.
Yeah. It is. It's interesting. It gives you a lot to think about. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love expanding my brain. Even though I'm old some days. It's awesome just learning new stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So number 7.
Ooh.
All right. So that is the Shum Ben from Cambodia. The Buddhist holiday of Shumben is also known as Ancestors' Day or the Caring for the Dead ritual. So I want to just make sure that I've got this as our background. It doesn't seem to be showing. Oh, there we go. Beautiful.
There you go.
I just love those colors.
So pretty.
I love that there's fire and flame in a lot of these ceremonies. Just beautiful. So the Buddhist holiday of Shumben is also known as Ancestors' Day or the Caring for the Dead ritual. There's the theme again. It's caring for the dead, remembering the dead. And it's one of the most important annual ceremonies in Cambodia. For the ritual of Shomben, celebrants typically honor departed relatives and ancestors going back as far as 7 generations. For 15 days each year, families create offerings of food, which they bring to their local places of worship. Each family typically gives its donation of food, usually cooked rice, to the Buddhist monks. Their merit earned by making this donation to the monks is thought to transfer to departed ancestors in the spirit world. The monks also do their part by chanting all night and performing a complex ancestral worship ceremony. I wish I could experience these ceremonies. It would be such a experience traveling around the world for a year and attending these ceremonies. It would be quite a phenomenal, eye-opening experience, I think. Just learning to think outside the box and see the world through a different lens. Would you like to do something like that? Is that sort of thing interesting to you?
I feel like there's some that I think I would be more interested in spectating. You
Yeah,
know, like I would have to, I just thought, as you said, I was like, oh my gosh, it seems so personal. You know,
yeah,
especially like that one in Cambodia that you were just saying, it seems so personal and so sacred.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
would
some
be
of them
like
would
an
be
honor.
really,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you'd have to be so sensitive, I think. You'd have to be really well informed and just basically humble yourself. Like I know as a white woman, um, I come with a lot of stigma and stereotype attached to me, just physically,
Just
instant
being there.
reactions. I would have to really humble myself, um, really to the point where I'm just a blank slate, ready to just learn and absorb whatever I'm being allowed to see or learn. I'd be really quite grateful to be included in anything. Any of these beautiful cultures would be a real honor.
Mm.
All right. So now I laugh because I love languages. And every time I see the next one, number 8, I always say it in my head exactly as I read it, but it's not how it's said. Samhain. Okay, so here we go. Number 8.
Samhain. Oh, Samhain. Yeah.
That's that.
What
All
an
right.
amazing
So
picture.
Samhain from Scotland. Most people know of Samhain as the pagan version of Halloween. But the
Sorry.
Celtic holiday of Samhain was originally a festival marking the end of fall and the beginning of winter. It's during this time of year that the Celts believed the spirits of ancestors could walk among the living at will. To honor the ancestors and protect yourself from negative fae encounters, celebrants can offer food and drink to the ancestors and offer departed family members a seat at the feast. So I know, obviously, all of this was Northern Hemisphere, but now
Yeah.
because there are pagan people living on the Southern Hemisphere, it causes a bit of a thing because the Southern Hemisphere have to flip it to suit the seasons. So
Hmm.
as you know, there's just different celebrations happening for the opposite seasons. Um,
Yeah.
I I I just sometimes wonder: is the celebration not tied into the globe, or is it definitely tied into the season? So should we not all be celebrating the same thing at the same time instead of one half of the pagans celebrating one thing and the other half celebrating another thing?
Well, I think I see what you're saying. And I think like we're moving more towards a global consciousness. So
Yeah.
like I think I definitely see that. But there's definitely this like ancient Celtic person inside of me going, well, no, it is tied, it is tied to the seasons because like Samhain is about moving, like death in that, like, the tree, like the leaves are falling, the flowers are dying,
Mm,
the weather is getting colder.
yeah.
And then also to like Beltane, which is what we should be
Mm,
celebrating here in the Southern Hemisphere
yeah.
right
Yeah.
now instead of Samhain, is about new life and rebirth and fertility, which
Yeah.
was, later
Yeah.
co-opted by the church to be Easter.
Mm,
And this was later co-opted to be Halloween to make it more
mm,
palatable.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think like traditionally, like if, and ritual based in tradition is I don't know, like I do struggle a little bit with the concept of changing it so drastically.
Yeah. Okay. So I think of myself more along the terms of being folkish, but based on Scandinavian belief systems. So I
Mm,
don't I lend myself to pagan and heathen thoughts, but my main focus is the Nordic, Scandinavian, the gods. Like I have a lot to learn. Like I've got heaps to learn, and that genetically, while I do have Celtic descendant, like ancestry, I feel called more to my Vikingish, Scandinavian, pre-Viking roots. So it's
yeah,
interesting hearing, like, immediately you speak with such authority because it's something you stand in, and it's like, whoa,
yeah.
so powerful. Like just instantly, it's like, fuck yes, like just preach. So
It's something that,
powerful.
yeah. Well, it's something I delved really deeply into. I was dating an Irish guy for a while, and he and I just really like sat in that.
Yeah,
Like he'd done heaps of research into, ancient Celtic mythology and the
yeah.
history of all of that. And I just, as soon as I just absorbed it like a sponge. And it was like, oh yeah, this is where I belong. Like this
Calls to
is,
your they
yeah,
say deep calls to deep, so it's like that you'll
yeah.
find the thing that really touches your heart. That's where you need to sit and you find it. So like my challenge is again just finding out more about my Nordic ancestry and what it means. And it's so
Mm.
fucking cool. We've got trolls and
So cool.
fairies and dwarves and netherworlds, and that's amazing, dragons
Oh,
and snakes and shit. Like it's great, man.
the
So yeah,
Nordic mythology.
it's
It's
deep.
really interesting because we probably have similar ancestry. I mean, look
Yeah.
at us. The shape of our face is pretty much exactly the same.
All
And
look the same.
I have, because I have Nordic. I mean, look, obviously. But yeah, and I just don't feel it. Like I find it fascinating as well. Like
Yeah,
I've done some research into the gods, like, Odin and
yeah,
the rest.
yeah.
But I just don't feel it the same way. And it's the same with you on the opposite. It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
it is. It's amazing. All right, so number 9 is we don't know because I'm using the wrong damn picture.
Mystery.
Just we'll never know now. We'll never know, guys, because yeah, I did well. All right, it's the Shinto. Shinto
Aha.
rites. So in Japan, many households observe both Buddhism and the religion of Shintoism. Many homes have a Shinto shrine. Oh my god, I don't know what that was. Is that a dog?
My dog. I don't know why he's freaking out, but I put him outside just for that
Oh
reason
my
because
god,
he's a monster.
it's a spirit talking through your microphone. So yeah, so you can also find dedicated permanent Shinto shrines in Japan where Shinto rites take place. The Shinto religion revolves around gods or spirits known as kami. The kami is a type of entity believed to inhabit everything on earth. And in Shintoism, the ancestors are often thought to be a type of kami. There are many festivals and rites associated with the kami, but they nearly all have to do with presenting offerings to Shinto shrines in exchange for good results from the kami. All right, so we're going on to 33 minutes, so I'm going to push on as
Mm.
fast as possible. So our next one,
I'm just muting myself.
that's fine. All right. Those look pretty damn scary, man. Those are scary, scary little creatures in the background there. So Shinto rites, we've done that already. Moving on. See, the dog has changed the whole show.
He's thrown us right off.
He's connected, man. All right. So now I heard that the Philippines don't say P, they say F. So I'm going to say Paganito, but I'm sorry, guys, if I'm saying it wrong. So, according to ancient Filipino religion, spirits called Anito inhabit every part of the world. The Anito are the spirits of the ancestors, and they influence events in the lives of the living. The Paganito ceremony is a type of spiritual seance in which a traditional shaman communicates with the Anito spirits. The term Anito is also sometimes used to refer to acts of worship and sacrifice used to please the ancestral spirits. Now, when I was learning how to say it, I realized that the word could be broken into two parts. Pa, which means still or therefore, and ganito, which means spoken of. So it also has
Oh,
that
that's
other layer
nice.
of meaning, still spoken of, which I think is really sweet. Very, very cool. So we're going to go on to the next one now. We've only got two more. So, number 11, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. All right. So let's do this. Let's do this. So I'm going to say Chuseok. It's probably Kuseok or something. I'm so sorry. The holiday of Chuseok is celebrated in both North and South Korea and is similar to the American holiday of Thanksgiving in many ways. It's a harvest festival celebrating a bountiful autumn season. However, it's also different from Thanksgiving in that it is specifically dedicated to thanking the ancestors for the plentiful harvest. A ritual called Share takes center stage, involving laying out food, lighting incense for departed relatives, and families also visit and clean the graves of their ancestors as a way of saying thanks. So I think that's really cool that they kind of thank the ancestors for the harvest. I think
I
that's
think
also
that's
a
lovely.
common thread too, giving thanks and remembering that you're being watched over and looked over. So this is our last one.
Ooh.
All right. So I don't know how you'd say that. Do you know how to say that? Kalan Gaaf, Gaaf, Gaaf,
Your
Kalan
guess is as good as mine.
Gaaf.
Anything from Wales is
I'm
just
gonna have Welsh peeps coming for me like a hurricane. Okay,
and they
calm
will. They'll be very polite
down,
about it.
calm down. Okay, so in Wales, the first day of winter is known as Calan Gaeaf. It's believed that on this date, the spirits of the ancestors can walk amongst the living. Another
There we
recurring theme.
go. Yeah.
People in Wales traditionally avoid locations like churchyards where the spirits are likely hanging out. So they actually stay away
Yeah,
from
that's
areas where the
interesting.
spirits will be instead of looking for them and seeking them out. The traditional way to honor one's ancestors and avoid a negative encounter with spirits, I love this, is by writing your name on a rock and placing it near a fire. So that's interesting. I'd love to hear from any of the culture groups that have been mentioned today. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, please comment. Let us know any interesting facts and links and stuff. It's interesting learning about new stuff all the time. And yeah, so thank you for being with us for such a long time, 37 minutes, guys. Sorry about the long video, but we did have a lot to cover today. I wanted to do all 12 of the
Yeah.
groups that were mentioned. So thank you for sticking with us. And thanks, Erin.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work, Sandy.
Yeah, it's awesome, babe. And thanks for your wise words and just, your passion. And just it was so nice seeing you speaking from a place of authority and stuff. It was really powerful. So, yeah,
Thanks.
bring that energy, girl. I love it.
I'll bring it.
All right, guys, have a lovely day. And I'm going to play my outro video now. So look after yourselves. Have a safe Halloween. Please do not do anything stupid. Enjoy dressing up. Be culturally sensitive and look after the ones you love. And most of all, enjoy the trick or treats. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks for joining us today for another one of my videos, guys. If you would like to see more of my content, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help. Just click that little notification bell and you'll be notified whenever I do post anything. And if you're on Facebook and you see a post that is letting you know of a future video that's coming up, just click on the small little button with a star on it that says Get Reminder, and then you don't have to think about it. You will get a reminder when we're going to go live so that you'll be able to join us without worrying about it and enjoy your time with us. All right, guys, have an amazing day, and I will see you when I see you.